Hey, so yeah, I'm calling this video Rebel Without a Cause because that seems to be the energy of the 9th and 10th Fetters, if that's what this is. Um, it's like there's no self they're trying to protect. They just seem to be free form energies just trying to protect themselves. And they don't even know why. They don't know what they are. They don't know anything. They just like grip and justify. Um, and it reminds me of the improv game, Freak Out and Justify, where, maybe you're doing some boring scene and then someone off stage yells, Freak Out and Justify. And, you have to have a huge response, ah, and then you have to figure out why in the story you had that response. I think the funniest one was when there was a scene at the North Pole and a bunch of people had gone on stage to be reindeer, just to be props, like they were supposed to be characters, right? But somebody off stage yelled, reindeers freak out and justify. And so all the reindeers like, ah. And Santa was like, man, I thought I turned the sprinklers off. So anyway, yeah, that freak out and justify is it's what it feels like. But it's just like, sorry, I got the cat out. Yeah, buddy. But it's just visceral, and it it's like it wants me to think it's real, and it feels compelling and urgent. And to be honest, it's like it's kind of kicking my ass, which is probably as it should be. I don't think it's supposed to be super easy. Um, but yeah, I've been in the middle of feeling through more layers of old loneliness, feeling left out, bitter disappointment, hatred of suffering and injustice, and rage, and like judgment of this stupid, solid, mean, gross, painful, unfair, cruel universe. Even like reacting to things like I saw a couple of mules the other day, and I was thinking of my grandpa's fond memories of mules in his childhood, and how all that is so utterly gone, and so is he. And 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 there's a kind of pathos to that, right? But it's not just that. Also, these mules can get sick or hurt or tired or sad or beaten. And I'm like, what's the point of that? Like, why create all these creatures that can suffer? And I'm feeling resentment that I'm so ignorant and have no agency and no choice about whether I'm ignorant or have agency. I have no choice about how the world is or my place in it. I have no choices in this awakening process. I'm not even the one doing it, apparently, so they say. I'm totally helpless and I don't understand anything. And a part of me fucking hates that, right? Um, but I mean, what do I want? Do I want to say, listen, God, don't you want to hear my ideas about how we can improve this place? I mean, it's probably just more like rage and my parents and like the autonomy I didn't have then, and the way that I was kind of kept powerless and ignorant when they could have just treated me like a human and taught me things and given me choices, you know. But that old resentment of my parents. It feels so I'm so tired of it. I keep thinking that's done, and it just feels like an endless cycle. Um, and anyway, I should probably stop using the word God because it brings up like an imperious father figure. Um, Probably better to say Tao or something like, "Hey, Tao, listen, I know you've got your flow thing going on and all, but I really feel like digging my heels in. I don't even know why. And anyway, what the actual fuck is going on, please?" Um, just yeah, over and over. And a part of me also hates that every time I think I've made good progress, the universe slaps me upside the head again. Like, oh, you think you're done, sweetie? That's really cute. Here's another dark night. And, you gotta assume it's for the best. And it definitely teaches patience and humility. And I just keep telling myself, Angela says it's finite. Angela says it's finite. Like, at least there's a finite amount to process until things can stabilize overall to a great extent. And they're already much more stable than they were. a couple years ago. Like, even though this dark night feels real and it feels hard, there's also a background of kind of patient equanimity. And sometimes, part of the dark night is like, is it really patience and equanimity? And of course, how the hell do I know? But it feels also like that's waiting. It's funny, like when I'm in a dark night, it feels like there's equanimity and waiting in the wings. And when I'm feeling good, when I'm happy, when I'm feeling free, it feels like the opposite is waiting in the wings. Like another dark night is waiting in the wings, and yeah, it just goes back and forth, back and forth. Um, but anyway, all that is just thoughts, finite or waiting in the wings. I mean, the only thing I can really concern myself with is here and now, and I know that. Um, and I'm trying to see, all this inner work, all these dark nights, all the whole thing as, any stage, however long it takes, as, not something to just get through, not just a burden, not just like, I'll get through this and get to that. Like, even in dark nights, I'm spending quality time with myself, building capacity to love myself and tolerate my so called imperfections, which makes it easier to love and not judge others. And it makes rejection less terrifying because I'm never really alone. I always have myself, and more and more I can love myself. And of course, it's not easy at some stages, but the more I can embrace being here, even in a storm of sorrows and confusion, the more I can embody that which I seek, which is the point. Um, and then, when times are difficult, it can feel like trying to pull myself up by my bootstraps. And plenty of thoughts come like, who the hell is even doing the pulling? Like, who's is the universe doing the pulling? Am I the universe? Am I a self-like part? Um, like whatever, you put words on it, but you still don't know what the hell it is, right? And then I try to feel into the feelings behind the question of who the hell is doing this. And that's like the sort of anger and confusion and a childlike fear. And so I just try to stay with that. Just feel, feel, feel. Like Angelo says, just be with it. Even though I don't know who's being with what. Don't know anything. And sometimes that's just fully terrifying. And I try to say, hello, terror, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, right? Um, and Angela released a video recently that said getting through that grief is a portal to real love. And I wonder how the sort of the fear and loathing relate to grief, um, and love. And I'm thinking maybe I feel so strongly, maybe I'm so angry because I care about others and myself. I'm angry on my behalf and on theirs. And that's easier than grieving all the cruelties and tragedies and absurd, stupid bullshit. What am I afraid of? What am I really afraid of? What is there to actually fear? I mean, the thoughts that come are, I'm afraid meanness wins. I'm afraid the bad guys win. I'm afraid things don't wrap up with a neat happily ever after all. I guess I'm afraid of some ultimate abandonment or unworthiness. And I'm kind of disappointed that I never seem to get a honeymoon period. It's like I said, there's always a background of dread and doubt and fear, even in the most pleasant phases. Even when even when I felt my most free, there's a dread of the time when gravity will bring me back down again, like that Khalil Gibran poem is not dread of thirst when your well is full, the thirst that can never be quenched. That's what it is. Um, I can't seem to escape it, and it makes me feel disappointed in myself, like I'm a fraud, or just unskilled, or unloved, or unwanted by the universe. And like the universe made me this way, so like I resent the universe for that. And I know all of that is delusion. All of it is just thoughts and la la la, right? But it remains like a bad penny. And I can say all this fairly calmly because I know it's just a bunch of thoughts. But the same thoughts keep creeping back up like weeds if I'm not constantly vigilant. Like after a retreat, I might feel so expansive and light and magical, but then there's the ever present thought of the gravity that always feels like it's waiting to creep back in. Um, and I see people on YouTube or in Facebook groups, acting so free and high and joy, like blissful and whatever. And, often I think they're fooling themselves, just like I'm fooling myself when I feel good for a while. The crash is always coming. It's a belief I can't seem to get rid of. Um, that if I'm happy or free, I must be fooling myself. And I don't want to be a fool, right? Um, and, in a way it's okay. I mean, skepticism has always been a guiding star ever since I realized I was fooled about Santa Claus. And I really like non-dual because it doesn't ask you to believe anything or identify with anything. It doesn't forbid you from questioning anything. It permits infinite skepticism and it only asks you to trust yourself. And yet it does kind of have a point of view, even though its point of view is there's no point of view, right? That's on a relative sense. If the relative was real, if non-dual is wrong, then this is just another way of looking at things. And I'm always like kind of glancing around. Maybe there's, for some way that it may be fooling itself or fooling us. And I had a thought the other day, which is, what if all this non-dual stuff is just a way to calm our nervous system down, like our warning system, our feeling system, including the feeling in our gut that something isn't right? Like, what if it's all just a hack to sublimate that so that we can enjoy our privilege, forget about the world while it burns, right? And I know the arguments against that. I know that there's no requirement to abandon the world. Um, and I know that, sometimes the more we clear out our system, the more clear our signals from our guts can actually be. Um, but still, that thought persists. What if we're taking the best people out of the equation just when they're needed most? What if we're the ultimate fools? Um, and yeah, I know. And there's gut feelings, and then there's gut feelings, right? There's gut feelings that are conditioned, and supposedly there's gut feelings that are genuine. Who gets to judge that? But anyway, I mean, a gut feeling that makes me take something out on my kids that has nothing to do with them. Uh, Obviously, it's good to get rid of that. And already I can see ways that it has cleared my vision, not distorted it, or so it seems. Maybe I'm wrong about that too. Um, none of that means I'm abandoning this pathless path because I don't see an alternative that feels better to me. Um, but I mean, point is, fear still comes up, and it'll find any way to justify itself. Um, but yeah, so it seems like I have to work my way through all the fear and loathing to get to the grief, to get to the love and the freedom. And I asked myself yesterday, why do I find certain things loathsome? that are just ways people are, that are objectively neutral. And, I feel like kind of my family and my culture taught me how to find people loathsome, including myself. And that those feelings aren't mine. Like they were given to me. This feeling of disgust and hatred and all that, it feels like a sham. It's an energy that's apparently a part of things too. Just this gross energy that takes us away from what I like to think of as our truest, highest selves. What our deeply resonant stories and holy books and mystics tell us is the best in ourselves. And like, I don't know, what's the point of that gross energy? Like, why do we have to go through those awful feelings, those those meannesses? I can't will myself to know that. I can't read a book or consult an authority. All I can do, apparently, is stay on the path because I'm told there's only one way to find out, and that's through your own direct experience, if there's any way at all. But I do, when I can really tune in, and again, I don't know who's doing it, I don't know why, I don't know how, but there are times when it feels like something is bubbling up underneath all that mess. Like the fear and loathing are just on the surface. And what's really there, what's under the surface when I tune in is just aliveness. Like something ferocious and gleeful and free. And it triggers the repression even more. It's like to keep a tighter lid on it. Because while ignorance is terrifying, so is real freedom. Whatever the fuck that even means. The unknown, the uncreated, the unbound. You get anywhere close to it and every alarm starts going off. It's too real. The system rebels. Um, but you have a question, who's the tyrant? The tiny rebelling system trying to keep me down or keep me safe? Or the vast unknown trying to put me in my place or kill me or blow up my life or take me to nirvana, right? And I know all those are just thoughts, all those are just stories too, but anyway, it's what's going on in here. So yeah, yesterday someone pulled out in front of me on the highway and then slowed down. And that kind of thing, like if it's something that it grinds my gears. I react to it. I don't like it. Um, and so I accelerated around the van with a kind of wild abandon and was like, yeah, that's right, get the fuck out of my way, dick pill. And it was fun. It felt like abandon, like freedom. None of this spiritual bullshit. I'm just gonna be a stupid animal for a minute. It's gonna be an immature kid for a minute, whatever. Um, and I can even feel a little restlessness at a red light or when there's any rule, like something in us longs for some kind of wild freedom. And you can really see it in kids, the push-pull of wanting to please grown-ups, but also fucking hating all the rules, especially like they can smell the dumb ones, right? Um, and when I was in college, we did stupid stuff like drinking too much or, running the tail end of red lights at night when it seems safe the light was about to turn green. Um, but then sometimes like you miscalculate and you actually just like you flat run a red light. It doesn't turn green when you're halfway through, and it's like it's just stupid, right? Um, or people get tattoos or do drugs and go to raves, like little rebellions, little dumb socially acceptable outlets. I shouldn't say dumb, like people do what they do. Um, but like I resisted things like getting tattoos or face piercings um, because it just seemed like another box. It seemed like, and also I didn't want to make decisions for 60-year-old Pamela at the age 18 by putting permanent ink on my body. Um, but anyway, that's just me. Um, and I saw the kind of people who went to raves. They didn't generally seem like very happy people, or Burning Man or whatever. I mean, I went to Burning Man once. I had fun, but there's also there. I mean, there can be a mix of like genuinely kind of happy, free people and just, yeah, just like this is an outlet for unhappy people. And it doesn't actually do anything. Um, yeah, and then, and then you go into corporate law or retail or what the fuck ever with your tattoos and your Burning Man list serves, whatever. But the real rebellion is something most people can't really put their finger on. And I think the rebel without a cause, like the title resonates because so many people feel like that, or like Holden Caulfield. Like everything feels like more of the same, just kind of gross. It feels kind of like bullshit, but we don't know what to do about it. Like, most of the countercultures, they have their own insincerities and corruptions too. Um, yeah, it's another box. And often they just, they help prop up the status quo, like maybe without meaning to, but that's kind of the upshot. So it wasn't until I found the non-dual path that I was like, finally, this is it. This is what I've been looking for the whole time. It's the first time I ever felt like that because everything else had some kind of, red flag that let me know I'd never really belonged there. Um, and the non-dual space, literally every single part of you is accepted by definition. Maybe not any behavior, obviously. I mean, you don't go slap people upside the head while they're meditating, hopefully. Hmm. But any thought, any feeling, any question is welcome. Any. Uh, I mean, you got the paradox of tolerance. You don't want somebody like some sort of sexist coming in and making it an unsafe space, but whatever. Different topic. Generally speaking, as long as you're not wishing anybody harm or being an asshole, um, any sincere thought, feeling, question is welcome. Um, and I could be wrong about that. Like plenty of smart people have been fooled in countless ways, and this might be my turn. Um, the universe might be a big mean shit show, and there's no escape from a hell we didn't ask to be born into, but keep perpetuating in a million humiliatingly stupid ways because apparently that's who we are. That might be it. What can I say? I did ask ayahuasca, how do I know if the universe is benevolent? And it said, look into your heart. What do you find there? And it seemed the answer was my hope that the universe is benevolent, right? But I mean, you can say that's a little bit thin. Like, how the fuck do I know anything? My heart. What is my heart? How do I know that I know? Um, and when I was 23, I did get a glimpse of the absolute perfection of everything that felt like the most real experience of my life. Um, of course, somebody interrupted me and I got crammed back again into an ignorant human body. Uh, but anyway, if there was any truth to that, then benevolent is far too small a word for what the universe is. It's just far beyond anything we can begin to imagine or conceptualize or anything. Um, I'm still a little mad that I was thrown out of paradise so fast I could barely get a taste. Um, Even though I knew at the time that it was more than most people got, and I probably shouldn't be a spoiled little shit about it. And I'm still kind of mad that really cruel things happen here. But why am I mad? Because I care. I mean, why else would I be mad? I do seem to care about myself and others. Apparently, I was created that way. And I think even people who do terrible things, even if all they care about is soothing the small child inside themselves that feels insignificant and lonely and frantic, and they don't know any other way to do it, I think they care too. But I don't know why so many of us have to go through these horrible energies that make us feel abandoned, left out. It's really awful. It's really awful. Of course, in the end, we're all abandoned. I mean, even if we have a life full of love, no one can guarantee any of our loved ones will live longer than we do. And even if they do, death is a journey we can only take alone. And if you believe we're part of a larger universe, then we're never alone. Um, and more and more, I can enjoy solitude without feeling like I'm missing out, and I can enjoy other people without feeling like I need anything from them. And that's worth a lot. And I have a feeling all these fears and thoughts and loathing and all that is another barrier, another portal. That's what the teachers say. Um, but my ignorance is so complete, I can't say anything at all for sure. I don't know. I probably can't know. It seems like a paradox that can't be resolved in any logical way, which means logic isn't useful here. And the mind hates that so much. It feels so completely helpless and vulnerable. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to kind of brush up against it. It's another thing to feel it like full frontal, in your body. It's not easy. But yeah, when I really tune into these intense feelings, it does feel like pure aliveness, something wild and free trying to break through, which triggers the defense mechanisms, rebellion, a harsh counterattack, fear and loathing. It's like a big battle going on, and I can't necessarily say or do much about it. Um, just try to be with whatever's there. The unknown, the unborn, the unbound, just words. Until it isn't. This threat, so called, to take me out of my imaginary refuge forever. It's a lot on any given Saturday to think of truly, fully dying. Not just self being gone, but any position, any judgment, any hope of personal power, or any knowledge that my little mind can grasp. But of course, if it feels like an endless cycle, that means there's some belief or thought that persists. And Alan Watts said, problems that remain persistently insoluble should always be suspected as questions asked in the wrong way. Or maybe questions aren't the right tool at all. Just trying to stay in this. Abide in the mystery. No defense against the defense, even. Allow all of it. Allow. Don't try to stop the battle. Don't try to prejudice the battle. It's not me doing it, apparently. So they say. And of course, there's no battle either. There's just sensation and a mind going blah, blah, blah about it, even though it doesn't know. And if all else fails, it screams, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. What are you going to do about that? Can't do anything about that. I just can't. Abide in the I just can't. That's my grandpa, by the way. Where am I pointing? He did a little self-published book about stories from his childhood. My ancestor. One of many. Wonder if some version of him is somewhere watching all this. Just thinking about his mules. Yeah, I should probably get off and just do the thing. So yeah, cheers, guys.